Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Spring Eternal, and I, of course, am the one and only Richard Millett. Hope that you enjoyed our wonderful opening act, God's Gift, and we are on rented equipment tonight, so I hope that this goes smoothly. If you saw last week's, you know that we were fighting an uphill technical battle for most of the night. But we still were really fucking good because this is what we do. So, let us begin. It's called Flowers at the Foot of the Cave. Swinging light bulb above a cracked basement window, a painting depicting the creation of creation, and a makeshift bed. I made up a new name for you that I'll only keep in my head. My head. Look at the jewel resting in the bottom of the wooden cup with a stack of handwritten sheets explaining the steps of the ritual in rich, deep red, and the names of everyone there exist in my head. My head. Charcoal renderings of saints ripped from a magazine and pinned to the door, dented bits of metal shaped to make a mosaic and pushed into the floor. Quarter-inch thick spray-painted silver ribbons looped like ringlets in the air, and the floating stray white veins from a feather landing on your hair. Here I sit, half childish, with freshly washed clothes strewn over the chair. A tray with orange peels, melon rinds, and empty glasses rests balanced on the table's edge, while I'm reading a map leading to a room more colorful than the womb, where I can overhear things other than gurgling and organs rushing. But still, this will always be in its infancy, because love is where Genesis greets infinity, and for proof you can look in my eyes, even though I won't confirm or deny how much of this is true, but I trust that will get worked out by you. Doing okay out there? Beautiful. All right, this is it's called Milky Skies. For 3 weeks, I've seen the sky as one color stretched over a muted spectrum, and I've heard tiny handbells clang at irregular intervals. Without forethought, I was in a state of unstable concentration, with my sense of decency tested. I stared at celeste-colored veins and remembered how they were made. I was reminded of the worm, thankful to be placed back in the dirt after suffering a 2-inch gash on its side from careless shoveling. The youngest lady stops weeping and waiting and steps into invisibility, her velvet-lined pockets filled with small wreaths of braided blue stems. While embarrassed at how much she once admired her mother's brooches, she now fully blushes at her wish to own an ocean full of stone. Her friends repeatedly requested questions only furthers her hesitation, so she leaves a small note of explanation. Life is grossly inelegant in its demands that one must impatiently forget chores performed with red impressions left intact from knots affixed to ankles and wrists as if the sores had never existed. Shock of copper curls, cerulean halos in his eyes, considers his environment, and with his shoulders pinned back, adjusts his balance and stands straight up in his raft. The one idea that has possessed him so vanishes out from his mind, pierces the sea, then its velocity escapes gravity and reaches away past the sky. But he fears no lack of purpose, or whether this time has been meaningless. He has total devotion to the base truth of his vocation. His ankles give way, and he falls back gently, lands on his hands while some water splashes in. He considers those who would deride his actions and thinks, I don't require any clothes. I'd rather remain naked for everyone. I felt watched when I first voluntarily gave away confidential information, then tried to explain the layout of San Antonio to a stranger who never knew I'd never been there before. And now, as minutes become limitless, any vows I made always sustained me. I felt watched when my thinking was clean and capable of strict reasoning, and I rode along freshly painted runways, left notes on license plates, brambles, and high chairs. And now, as lassitude disintegrates, any vows I made remain unchanged. I felt watched when my legs were bathed in a heat as persistent and unruly as a bat taunting a seal, repeatedly landing on its shoulder and squealing. And now, as fury impassively fades, any vows I made could never break. I felt watched when I attended 10 drawing classes and attempted to finish a full circle freehand without interference between thought and motion. And now that my hands are patient, any vows I made are everything. Here she flies. And now we know if the promises made more than 10 years ago have been kept. Here she flies, with 2 pens, rosary, brass paperweight, earrings, locket, and measurements written on a business card. Here she flies, gums and hair receded, a miniature brace for a baby wrapped in grade hardened plastic. Here she flies with an oxygen tank bubbling ceaselessly, a UHF channel on the television showing an old western silently. Here she flies while I stand with tentative confirmation, a glass of thickened water, and 3 empty white boxes. Here she flies with skin like marble over winding staircases and rooms with seafoam colored walls and intimidating machinery. This is called When I Look. When I look and walls are in the wind, when I see you're unsure how to begin, I promise soon you'll be laughing, with friends in open gardens clapping. When you see, you remember every dream. So we find it's simple to forget. So you find that you are very blessed. Through windows at sunset silently, faces meet your eyes, smiling serenely. So you find you remember every dream. And you try imagining all things beyond eyesight, in air over our celebration, beneath streets unknown, untouched, 40 fathoms deep, too far to reach. When I look and talk to you, I know. When I see that you will never be alone. The mirror reflects a statue, lilac bush and bee, and we agreed feelings create reality. When you see, you remember every dream. In and near, eclipsing, absorbing, transmogrifying wood, water, and sand, pushing till the horizon is vanishing, scraping outer limits, distant and away. How are we doing out there? Doing good. Beautiful. This is a very old one. I wrote this, more than 25 years ago. I sat at my parents' dining room table. They were out, and I wrote this in one pass. I normally never would write at the dining room table, because, that was reserved for guests, but we ate in the kitchen. We were the help in our own house. This is called Water Oracle. I'm ready for unfolding trains to chip away my splintered pins, waiting for the train's arch sticky impulses and the pleasures of humidity, preparing to dance with a China doll face and blue faded ignorance, squelching archaic, lice-like, traditional, hidden dominations. I'm ready for an illustrious glass night with cotton candy laughter, not expecting anything and completely aware of every encrusted idea. I accept the contradictions and the willingness to end. Where restless ruminations of sight won't find me cracking my hands, I want to relapse memories of spontaneity with bicycle womb wheels and blood blisters. She might be coming, unshaved at any time, To reel flow what won't be said to abolish illusions to exile frenzy, sleeping and dangling on terry cloth mattresses and waking rank porcelain into the morning. And this is from Citizenship from a few years ago, for anyone who knows that book. It's called The Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled up in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflects the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots and rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. This is called 3% Profit, PROPHET, not money. And why 3% profit? Well, the band had, was it 7% pantomime? So I decided, why not 3% profit? And that adds up to 10, of course, if you're into numerology, which I'm not really, but kind of. This is, yeah. Waking up to the sun soaked world in the eyes of a diamond stretching out from a full circle. I was at a recital resting on a bed of feathers and then floated to the front of the festivities. A Mercury step leaped through the lake and land in a leafy soft meadow, my legs a blurring winding wheel. My mom and dad hold out boxes, they walk together to an airplane, then climb up and run across the wings. But soon it's nice and quiet for me, as we can plainly see. I tied a string around an anteater, as we can plainly see. The newspaper says it's better to have metal teeth, as we can plainly see, but I would rather bathe in butter, as we can plainly see. I nicked a little bit of a hammer and nail on my way onto the helicopter. What I knew of physics sped up my entrance. Never seen the sky be so brave and wide, or thought about the joy in watermelons. And when I carefully left the step stool and went into the underground ice tunnel, I ran across a humidifier so the motor could keep my feet warm and not get harmed by frostbite. My eyes hide behind a pregnant woman's stomach while a laser rings into my ears. I try to open a case of sewing supplies, but to my surprise, the latch is bandaged shut. I breathe yellowed air and drink bubbling water and play with friends who live in the shower. I put a cold stream of thoughts in a brown paper bag and wonder where I can tap the telephone. I freeze my face in photographs so that I'm not recognized while I page through my scrapbooks. The bugs and the cracks decline my invitations to dance, so therefore they're unwanted. I hiss into the sink until they crawl back, so that my party can stay filled with levity and not too much gravity, so I paste my Polaroids all over the walls in geometric patterns, and steal some dinner from my next-door neighbors, as it's their fault for having given me a key. My sleeves festooned with pins and wind chimes dangle and jangle, announcing my arrival. A curl in the best nest with an arm that won't do you harm, an idol vibrating on a whirring appliance, as we can plainly see, and soon I'm ready to eat nothing moving suddenly, as we can plainly see, and even sooner still time to sleep. Here's to a night of pleasant dreams, as we can plainly see. This is another older one. It's called Corsage. I've been waiting. It's been too long, but now you're here, and I don't want to waste any more time. Satellite causes. An invitation, a collage reality, Gilded curtains, blue carpets, singed rose thorn blood. Apples and lasagna swathed over your stomach. Sometimes I miss you, sometimes you hate me. Boiling and dark, searing in rhinestones. X-ray angel melting crucifixes, smiling faces. It's so easy to forget everyone. It's so easy to adore you. Sunrise on the Caina Islands, watching from the shore. Take a picture so I won't forget. Sunrise on the Caina Islands, drawing with my eyes. Save it so I won't forget. Azure bird observes the river in its shimmering glow. Ranulph finds walking across the soil while filming the sky. I don't see the bell, there must not be one. The lane and land both bend to shape the horizon. Sunrise on the Caina Islands is eclipsing time. Save it in a flash of light, drawing with my eyes. This is called Diamond Mine. How are we doing out there? Doing good? Beautiful. Water rushing so fast it looks like knotted wood. Its sound is ceaseless, perpetual crash in static blue and black. Droplets burst over the plank sides and dot the dirt or land on kicked out bricks. And from the ravine's opposite angle, the water seems to glide clockwise, rolling ever nearer toward the gears. And into the factory where 7 years previous, the core of the industry sunk unexpectedly early, and like a defense attorney, this treasurer ruled the materials used were archaic and their methods unrealistic. And as demand seized up, the foreman and night shift technicians acidly joked they were laboring within the Great Repression. For ages, it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. And we know it's either tacitly implied or we're told outright. You can't be seen like that. You need lights. When money is exchanged and you're finally reasonable and realistic, you can't be seen like that. You need lights. Know the value of being articulate and reconsider your obscure subject. You need to stay in the lines. You need to revise. Realize the need to eliminate images that would be unwise to present or ideas you'd be unable to defend. Why persist if honest people cannot implicitly understand you can't be seen like that? You need lights. For years, it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. Back in the head office on the desk next to the coffee scissors and gold pen set was a black leather envelope in that morning's newspaper whose sub-headline read, Forget Forgetfulness, and detailed the local photographer who makes elaborate, enormous near-twin gelatin prints of events, one real, one staged, and described the effect as painting over paintings. When asked by the reporter, who will get this, the photographer remarked, anyone who misses being pure or ever imagined placing one point in time over another, anyone who pictures the shape of ideas and not the shape of their own mind, anyone who sees a crowd and tries to find the people in disguise. Later, the paper lay open to the crossword puzzle, and among answers written in indeterminate script were asides like, does purpose follow appearance? Where's this from? Reasons better than because. Finally, of course, determining what to become. Newly forming line. I have seen the newly forming land, the beginning of the plan, the greatness of the expanse, the brand new day where nothing will be forced away. I have seen the angle of the road. I have seen the angle of the road, and the expectation unfolds. The newborn day. The newborn day will be coming, and the space will sweep us away. This is called Should I Go In? A silver pepper mill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport, and though she never really shows anybody, I still know that she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale told before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Remember a story you'll want to pass along someday while you reach and touch your toes. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Every color candy. If I could implicate, if I could talk to you, I will some more. And just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness, maybe I'm on the thrust of that. You can also go to the website and click renew. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and in every platform on the route she'd whisper, "I still love Phil. I always have and always will." She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights workers' favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train and her earrings were some flashing orange lights. She waves hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking loudly over each other at her grandmother's birthday. 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 I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked up in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. It's called Last Night We Saw an Angel. Last night we saw an angel, the most beautiful woman alive. I've never seen anyone more graceful. She conducted every sound in flight. Last night we saw an angel. She tiptoed across our hum. She exercised her will and made the light move faster from the sun. Last night we saw an angel, the most beautiful woman alive. She stopped the pageant and calmed the lightning in the sky. As I walk with God. I walk with God. I walk with God. Through all my changes, during my happiness, and throughout my challenges. I walk with God. I walk with God. Close to my memories, through my mistakes, past all my actions. I walk with God. I walk with God. For forgiveness, for resolution, to see the stages I play a role in. I walk with God. I walk with God. Because I know it's easy to fall into false humility or declare your own authority. I walk with God. I walk with God. To try and understand as much as I can about the expanse of creation. I walk with God. I walk with God. Because of the moments when I see serendipity and grace expressed so sublimely. I'm only here to accept my responsibility. I walk through a world I don't like, and as time went on, I felt more disconnection. I walk through a world I don't like until I had almost complete separation of myself. I walk through a world I don't like, and this wasn't troubling. I thought it would help. I walk through a world I don't like, and that I could make a true observation and learn and improve. I walk through a world I don't like, but I found that the obverse was true. I walk through a world I don't like, and the more I remain detached and considering the reflection, I walk through a world I don't like, the more I became unnatural and obsessed with my own protection. How are we doing out there? Good. This is sort of the end of the first half, I guess. This is one that we don't do that often. Sometimes it needs to be done, and when we had the chance to do Spring Eternal, this beautiful run of performances, and make something hopefully very beautiful, I thought, well, maybe we should do this. This sort of the forgotten middle child from a book I did a long time ago. It's called Apples. I went to the penitentiary to apply some ministry. I hitched past the cobblers and said no sale to the merchants. Once past the gate, I placed my cross on the desk and turned to face the inmates of the colony. I read them Ecclesiastes, the first pages of Revelations, and answered each of their questions. Upon returning, I sat in my cabin and unraveled the head I kept with me. It was around 15 pounds. The first camera ever shown to me had been used during my mother's autopsy. My mother was a woman of unshakable faith, part of a tradition that no longer exists. She found a kind word for everyone and made clothing for the members of the council. She'd levitate when we sang Onward Christian Soldiers in the barnyard. We'd go in there after dark, drink molasses, and tighten the wiring on the man we were constructing. The choir would pound the floorboards while we hammered. After screaming the word of God, my mother would say, "Oh, son, all that chrome is going to sail someday." We were bound to make that metal man fly before anyone else could claim the rights. I built the heart, John built the lungs. My wife fed us with milk and butter while my sons made skin from our pigs who'd been diseased that summer. After helping nail spikes in the railroad, I preached against frivolity. I was approached by men who shook my hands and gave me thanks. They were ironmongers who'd cast muscles for our man and build us a proper church. Months later, all the strands had been lost. We were forced to sell our coal for less than we'd been paid. We were destitute, calling for mercy to keep away the natives and to save our ways. We resettled west of the mountain plains. After months of wooden wheels breaking and cattle dying, the metal man had been taken apart and used to build shelter. And it was one night around the campfire as we sang songs and ate steaks scraped with iron that the flames started shaking and turned to blood. We looked down at our plates and saw our food become rust. A thunderbolt clapped and we all fell still. In the morning, we saw brass and gold chips where the fire had been. We saw the privileged conditions of the bankers' houses looted empty. We knew the guiding hand had started the end of their Babylon, and we rejoice like when the angels with breastplates of fire descended, and when locusts were licking the wolf head jaw. I ran my teeth till the enamel was peeled off on the apple stem covered in ants, the same ants crawling over the cemetery. I need a burial at sea, no clauses, no wills, just a boat to be thrown out of. I submit to carbon and salt. They can attach a camera to my body and lance treasure with a harpoon. The apple stem like the spike of toxins in a blackhead, or the sun landing on a city block. Flower stems have no lifespan and won't live through a flood. Apple stems are stronger than a panther spine and protect the seeds from burrowing all the way down to the earth's core next to the devil's hand, who sucks the juice out of the skin and tried to rip the apple stem with a hatchet. The apple stem isn't burdened by the seasons or burned by foul. The apple stem rots when bruised, gets carved into headboards, and disintegrates in sulfur. I can't be decorated with 2x4 effects. I've seen the citizens stomp, making their ribs stop. I've seen oxygen get released over clouds, forests, and police. See a clearing where the sharp aluminum formed our fossils, buried standing up, past the buildings that store a million bushels of wheat. See the ashes on the bunkhouse underneath sticks and twigs with the Indian gum picked out. See a clearing, sewing all the skirts at the end of the porch near the river for the blue ribbon winner. See a clearing for the Prince of the Mayflower. What are you doing out there? All right, this is what we came for, right? This is called Dance the Night Away. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered, droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements. As when water splashes in the sky, a maypole stands unraveled while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas, soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires, fragile forktails freshly shaven as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! This is called Naked in the Sand. Standing in the shower, listening to the reporter recount the details of how he wrote the story in an interview. Silly things that were said, what you'd normally forget, were used to create what we call the forensic resurrection. Nobody knows how to tie the simple knots that I know. What they thought was evidence of a UFO were just streaks of antifreeze in the snow. The translation of what the guy was singing in the exhausted chanson was, "Any stick you want to beat me with is fine. I don't mind." They found him naked in the sand, Vaseline smothering his left hand. Grab some goo. He'd already blown hundreds, tipping strippers and thousands, between room service meals and eccentric laundry requests. As a saint, he could not understand that how you spend one night doesn't determine your way of life. Certainly not necessarily. The reporter said, one successful story can take as much as 3 years' time. He used his winnings to lease a car named Spot, though when the divorce lawyer pressed him for specifics, he couldn't confirm whether it was his own to own or not. Reverse gentrification. That's so stupid, the reporter said, while wearing a denim shirt under a suede vest. That's what passes for journalistic integrity, I guess. They apprehended him naked in the sand while he was arguing with his bank account how much he was being charged on OnlyFans. He ignored his ignored lunch being consumed by birds and ants. The reporter said, I'm only out for one thing, the pussy, the money, and the mic. Someone whose head is round as a bowling ball and smokes their shame before getting hung up on by two guys trying to look inconspicuous in new sharp suits and what were obviously pasted on little beards. He stared longingly at the contents of his underwear drawer, wishing he had a black mask and could march with Antifa. He wanted to make a donation, calls on behalf of PBS, and resented being stuck making crumpets and tea for BBC US. Unfortunately, he was fingered on the steps while his graduating class wept in silent disappointment, and the smoke poured from his uncle's calabash pipe. The reporter dipped his thumb in iodine, wiped it on his sweatshirt, and said, what in the hell did I do that for? Then took another drink of his coffee that tasted like crayons, hoping to have some luck looking through locks. They apprehended him naked in the sand. At least that's what his longtime stage manager said. He was muttering, if only I had a brain, a whole lot of trouble driving him insane. They found him naked in the sand, making demands in a country whose laws he couldn't understand, getting taken off past a hail of flashes, smirking glances at the twerking girls making a fortune selling their asses. How are we doing out there? Doing good? Fantastic. This is called, of course, this is cruelty-free heroin. Can't say it enough. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping out on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases and flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report, though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracy theories, the usual being that this was some sort of planned distraction. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting processes when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain-link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves, though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing that death and maps are the only real measures of impact. Can you imagine being that fucking insane? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey have finally become one. Ignorance, arrogance, The pest control man said unto me, "When I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can, opened it with a knife, and slid off the wrap, and the air bubbles stayed floating around in my mouth, and I rolled them around and around and around and around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance." The pest control man said unto me, "Sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine, and I get deposited out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together." This is did a book a couple years. It's gonna be 2 years old. Isn't that weird? Time flies. Jesus. Anyway, called Apples and Ice Swimming Together in Soapy Water. About towards, I guess, the end of 2020. This is one of the poems from that book. It's called Investigating Mitsy. She rides around the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles and math. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still wet seashells and teacups half filled with a treacle she pours out onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. This is from Salt or Light. All right, this is from Salt or Light. This is called The Rabbit and the Cowardly Wolf. There's a reason why we do these sorts of things is to be able to read things like this, because otherwise, it's great that it's on the page and out on the internet and all that, but these things come alive when performed, perhaps at their finest moments. So I hope you enjoy this. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of. I don't want to say, oh, there's a lot of truth, but I guess there is. I suppose. Truth and beauty. That's what we're here for. We're here for truth and beauty and to totally be like, let's celebrate and make special every day, That's what we're here for. This is Spring Eternal. So, who cares? An angry, ingrown sore spreading red in the silently whining body. The body, what body? Checks her body and a brace of muscle spasms in her right bicep. She'd observe her pet rabbit in its cage and skip past the turn of the century print in her father's office depicting a fox hunt. And yet, just one block away, another rabbit sat in the passenger seat, horribly embarrassed, as the cowardly wolf got a breathalyzer and then failed to walk home in a straight line. But back to the unnamed girl. I think it might have been Amanda or Amy. When one's head is round as a bowling ball and smokes their shame and presses bare-chested on saplings in the spring at dawn for an unobserved tiny tingle before the roll is called, clearly mockery is uncalled for and exoneration is at a premium. But we shall not allow for a violation of definitions, especially for one as important to this narrative as Amanda or Amy. No, 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 no. When the rabbit stepped down as the star of his own sitcom to attend to those personal issues there had been so many whispers about. The Cowardly Wolf suddenly was left without something to watch, emulate, idolize, sneak in a quick jerk during the commercials to, argue with, get enlightened by, surprised by, study, evaluate, grade, rate, review, proselytize on behalf of, display obscure knowledge of, and obviously whinge that it wasn't as good as the early years, and that he would know since he was there before whoever he wasn't impressing. But since no other show gave the Cowardly Wolf the flood of serotonin he craved so restlessly, he grudgingly and pragmatically chose to watch reruns in perpetuity. And why not dress it up a little? For they could be revivals, or even better, celebrations, a new institution, a part of our shared experience and ongoing mounting heritage. Clutter television was wrong. The rabid and Cowardly Wolf decided to intercept their favorite actor's private plane as he touched down at the dullest airport you can imagine. The duo were hilarious to themselves. Is he wearing rayon? It's not like he couldn't afford Ultra Suede. After the actor greeted them with a few quick canned quips, he deftly inked two memories, and upon his departure, the Cowardly Wolf chided the rabbit about mistaking the actor's autograph for a pictograph. As they later sat in the 50s diner, their root beers run flat, the jukebox unplugged by the owner, hoping that they would leave soon. Though the rabbit pondered, who was that fighter who won a round without throwing a single punch? It wasn't Willie Pep. I have the answer. It was Muhammad Ali against Floyd Patterson during their first fight, their first bout in Las Vegas. Muhammad Ali won the first round without throwing a single punch. In fact, he intimidated Floyd Patterson so badly, Floyd Patterson flinched as Ali faked punches and stuck his arms out at his side. It is one of the most glorious displays of invisible fighting that you will ever see. Which one are you, an afterthought? Welcome back, Amanda or Amy. I handed him my ovation, but it wouldn't play. Total silence. He gave it back, and I sounded like Segovia. He tried one more time, and it was like someone had pressed a mute button. He just sat there, drinking coffee that tasted like crayons. I see that you've wandered in. Do you want to give an account of yourself? The unclean offerings are an example of a permissive society, the long, thin membrane that seemed to lead skyward, and you are so well-spoken, and none of us would have ever noticed reverse gentrification. The committee smiles, the lead lawyer holding out a pen. The rabbit renews his contract, and on his first project it'll be a mystery called If Only You Were Innocent. Photographs, press conferences, no disclosed details of the arrangements. He thanked his agent Marty Weber with a note and a fruit basket. The rabbit's people punched up the script with gems like, son, you're a born fact checker, right down to the letter. Don't you love fact checkers? Don't you love people who fucking look up what you're talking about while you're talking to them so that they can correct you in real time? I'll sell my secrets because I don't care. And of course, only dogs try to understand things. Meanwhile, the Cowardly Wolf had disappeared for 4 days to investigate a garden. He had wanted to make a biopic about himself, but he couldn't secure the rights. Oh, it's complicated out there. The rabbit and Cowardly Wolf slumped drunkenly against the back wall of their town with only the moonlight reflecting off their wine bottle. Net, neither the Harridan butcher's wife nor the laborer pounding spike shall feel a rigidity known in the necks like the mechanic's rex that feels nor floats a lodestone on the banks betwixt a bell and an alarm clock. Do you think it's wrong to contradict yourself? Seasick. Contradictions are confidence, a great man once said. Since you are no longer allowed to enjoy a glass of water, the Cowardly Wolf mumbles a roar as that goddamn kid has taken his seat on the train again. Off the rails with that wretched decade. Then the remorse, the introspective post-mortem, the fashion, the architecture, music, media, the technology, indecisive broad gestures, sweeping changes of the subject, conflating, placating terminology with warm sentiment. The Cowardly Wolf appears to ignore the news feed. Deeply flawed, archaic, downright prehistoric, dances over the line of self-parody so often you start to lose the ability to tell the difference. Pedestrian at best, and of course, an obvious forced version of what he used to do so effortlessly. I really miss Amanda or Amy. The rabbit and cowardly wolf get x-rays together, paw and paw at the clinic. Nothing's broken. They just like the way their jewelry looks after against their bones in the photographs. At the ballet, the view from the private box is undisturbed, and the rabbit relaxes and holds a bucket of carrots. The cowardly wolf watches him gnaw. They bought tickets using pseudonyms and are now wearing new suits with contrasting fedoras and little pasted on beards. In between acts, the cowardly wolf yawns, "Must they always?" which the rabbit doesn't hear, and then the lights go black. A cameo appearance. The rabbit bribed a policeman, and the cowardly wolf crouched behind a bush, filming it all. While both are smart enough to accept that this is an inherently artificial medium, they can't stand exposition disguised as dialogue, or arbitrary structural decisions, or the limitations of the budget, or when some exec wants to cast his goddamn punk nephew, who's really just a good kid and just trying to get away to break in. Amanda or Amy, I've always had such a high opinion of you. Save your dignity. Don't call the press. Preserve the essence of drama, the command, the show that intermittently ends and begins. How are we doing out there? Oh, there's a shocker. God. Wild stuff. All right, this is called, it's from, I guess technically the most recent book. We actually have a book coming out potentially next week, though we have a lot of technological limitations right now, so that may impede that. But it's coming out in April at any rate, and we're halfway through April, so it's got to happen soon. But it's really good. I really like it. It's called The 56th Book. Why? Because it is the 56th book. Um, so it's a bit literal in that sense. No symbolic meanings. Um, but I guess it's funny because the most recent thing I've done of new material, I've been working on like four or five, depending on how you keep track, other books. So this feels like a really long time ago, yet it's less than a year old. Um, so it's from the writhing shadows of the curling flame. This is called Wilhelmina's Hazel Eyes. Wilhelmina often finds herself left alone in the family home for weeks and on end. Let's start over. Wilhelmina often finds herself left alone in the family home for weeks on end, and as she eventually tires of tying her clothes into ropes and climbing in and out of the highest windows, she goes into her grandparents' safe, removing two small silver bricks, then paints a bouquet of flowers charcoal gray and makes her way into the street, planting herself solidly before getting the entire structure to levitate. Some months later, she sits with the members of her sorority, who she terrifies by telling the story of the time she was able to shrink a stray neighborhood dog, who was then able to climb inside the cyst under her ribs. The sorority sisters are equally put off by Wilhelmina's powdery, soft Marilyn Monroe cadence as she states a carefully articulated, "The few of you are not a monolith. Keep speaking over me, and I will see you get incinerated." Wilhelmina knows that those defined as children are never really able to fully leave the prisons they're forced to endure their sentences in, though they intuitively know they have committed no offenses and are bereft of original sins. So she finds her headmaster and headmistress and stares at their bodies until they become orbs of light and vanish into trails of odorless mists. This is we're gonna do a few new ones right in a row. So it's all the same story, you know. So just divide it up. You're smart. You'll work it all out. Truth and beauty. Truth and beauty. Social constructs are a social construct. Did you know that? Truth and beauty. Truth and beauty. That's what we're here. That's what we're all about here. Spring Eternal. And also, let's celebrate together and we have to fucking make special every day. It's called Shiroi. I signed the guest book. God damn it, man. What's up? I signed the guest book to see who else had been in the room. There were only 7 other names listed before mine. One of them was yours in handwriting using a nom de plume. They baked bread, they baked cookies in honor of the decision, waiting for the door to open. Netanyahu and Abbas took pictures from a delivery truck after they weren't invited in. I measured how fast the water filled the sink and hid my newly cleaned brushes and blades in the soil of a potted plant down the hallway. How I could still hear some voices echoing, free weights being dropped into a swimming pool. Why was the second name crossed out? Sneaking around and pausing sighs. It's Murasaki. Yes, I remember when you walked on the water. I remember thinking that it was just a trick of the morning. I remember a room full of hands stretched out towards you. I saw you open your eyes, wondering if you would ever repeat the moment. I remember when you walked on the water, and it wasn't a shallow stream leading to a moss trail. The memory is an object wrapped in monogrammed paper on a shelf. This is Silber. I was quoted in your speech, but later you did not recognize my face. You broke my concentration with your fluttering interruptions. You asked if I wanted to dance, then passed me off to your date. The dust from your cracked gasp landed on the shoulders of my tuxedo jacket. I could not have expected the choir to pull out flutes and spend the night trying to find a tune to sustain a 21-part harmony. I could not have wanted a seat against the back wall where the wheels of the dessert cart kept rolling into me. How could you forget the poster of the pincher-nosed couple with bleached flower countenance and gleaming jewelry in full evening formal wear, holding tins of caviar, boasting that they brushed their teeth with lard? All right. This is what we come here for, you know. This is Oliver Cromwell's Collage. The river will run, the birds will fly, the earth will turn, the sun will rise. The river will run, the birds will fly, the earth will turn, the sun will rise. Look at the field, the birds and skies. Day will follow night, spring then summer. The streets will be swept. We will work tomorrow. In the garden, in the building, your voice was not made for stealing. There is no culture war. Those who vehemently take sides or stake their claim are playing a game. Those who's out there... God, there's no culture war. Those who've been vehemently taking sides or stake their claim are playing a game, not whose outcome has already been decided, but whose outcome is in the continuation of the game. Zero comes before the one, 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 zero comes before the one. Still stuck fighting the same battles, the rage, exasperation, recurring pain, but it works both ways. Part of the reason the problems stay the same is the way the problems are constantly pointed at with the same approach, questions constantly being raised, constantly broken down to a children's song to see who's in or out, right or wrong. The daily reaffirmation is an equal factor in the stagnation. Zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one. The sterility, tightness becomes impacted into a lack of engagement and interest and joy, and that is terminal apathy. No retro, 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 no retro. Fuck 1941, fuck 1904, fuck 1977, fuck 1984, fuck 1991, fuck 2008. No retro, no retro. Fuck 1929, fuck 2005, fuck 1828, fuck 1989, no retro, no retro, fuck 1994, fuck 1996, not 1955, fuck 1997, no retro, no retro, no more retro, no more burlesque, no more detractors, no more marketing, no more unanimity, no more nothing, no more slavery, no more sterility, no more fascism, no more frauds, no more media, no more armies, no more factions, no more negation, no more lameness, no more cowards, no more manifestos. Zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one. All the dinosaurs drank from the same place, same bacteria, same reaction to change. The mosquito contemplates the lake, since it seems that its view is infinite, and thus too vast to be narrowed down by logic. The mosquito feels panic until it switches perspective, and the lake becomes again something else, a mirror by which the mosquito can only contemplate itself. The mosquito sucking on the back of the dinosaur as its nutrition, its home. The dinosaur lumbers forward, stuck in a thought, only able to do what it was taught. The mosquito becomes bored of its host. The dinosaur is only left with a swollen sore. No retro, no retro, no retro, no retro. The insect on the floor ran beneath my hovering hand under a door. The insect then stopped. Its voyage was complete. The insect saw itself as a hero at peace, certain that my shadow would soon recede. The insect on the floor, crawling across the men's room at the rest stop. It had a real shiny shell. Knelt down next to it, got a good look up close. There was a fucking camera on its back. Started seeing my reflection in every surface, and though it was a beautiful scene, I simultaneously missed strip malls, parked cars, rushing water, Walgreens, and office blocks next to trees. I skipped sideways out the exit and took a deep breath. All is one. 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 Nam Pravis. When you think you've thought enough, do the negation. When you think the past is safer than the present, do the negation. When irony is easier than reality, do the negation. When detachment is simpler than engagement, do the negation. When you see someone with enthusiasm, do the negation. When you encounter inspiration, do the negation. If there's an idea you don't understand, do the negation. Whenever you're uncomfortable, whatever you're inconvenienced, whatever you're irresponsible, do the negation. Everyone's right if nothing matters. Everything's fine if nothing happens. Do the negation, a joke within the suggestion. Do the negation, got the answers before the question. Do the negation, control the level of conversation. Keep the situation as it is. See something wrong, rein it in. Do what you've learned, do what you know. Do the negation. Everyone's right if nothing matters. Everything's fine if nothing happens. Your attention span is shot. You know that's not something you can really brag about. Is there beauty in an expanse of land, or does it have to be manicured? Take a lawnmower into the forest. Is an animal only there to do tricks? Can a vegetable be pulled from the ground, or does it need to be processed? Can I write these words without being published? Does something need an industry to make it exist? The industry creates customs. Customs create patterns. From the patterns come standards. The standards shift to perception. Ego and judgment. The standards reach to nullify aberrations and contradictions. Contradictions are confidence. To achieve seamless definition, the result is negation. Everyone's right if everyone receives the same fantasy and thinks it's their fucking personal destiny. Everyone's right if everyone agrees to use the same machines and be more ordinary. The former soldier on death row knows in his private moments what led him to this circumstance, grasps his stunted progress. He once followed orders in exemplary fashion. Now he sits in prison, no longer decorated, discharged, disgraced, and abandoned, and he says to himself, "When I kill for you, I'm rewarded. When I kill for myself, I'm exterminated." The crowd couldn't be more afraid. The crowd couldn't be more desperate. Nam verum. Have hesitations about his intentions? Do the negation. They're forwarding erroneous information. Do the negation. Can't devise their own language. Only can repeat verbatim. Imposing rules of debate? Do the negation. Afraid of a dialogue? Do the negation. Insists on petty confrontation? Do the negation. When they have no compassion? Do the negation. When they only know reaction? Do the negation. When they doubt your conscience? Do the negation. She's been preparing for the birth of her child, reading through history and psychology. Her parents want her to have the baby baptized, but she knows that doesn't need to happen. She's been preparing for the birth of her child, to see it's raised smart and strong, to see it makes a contribution and not be intimidated by anyone. She's been preparing for the birth of her child, eating carrots and leeks, exercising every day. She can't wait to teach her child how to speak. In the court, the judge declines arguments, admits what's permissible, dismisses ideas that are intangible. The judge's robe is his albatross, festooned with cloves of garlic, and he must instruct the jury. He must deliver his sentence. I want to be free. I want to see the sea, open the ocean, and let me in. Wear glass masks, open the ocean, and let me in. I want to be free. Open the ocean and let me in. Wear glass masks, open the ocean, and let me in. I want to be free. Open the ocean and let me in. I want to be free. Open the ocean and let me in. This is called Would You Sell the Relics? It was written several years after the last one. But, these things fit together very well, right? The general that only cares about tomorrow also expects everyone to echo the same expression, and when the general can no longer see the power of their influence, they try and exert control over any small set of circumstances underneath their command, while the brigadier general worries to no one if they need a transfusion. The colonel, who's concerned that not enough people's fingerprints matches theirs, requires a warning on the front page of each report, along with a summary cut together by a subordinate in a matter of minutes so they don't have to waste any energy generating any contradictory thoughts. While the captain enters their coordinates so the location is known and updated every single moment, which leaves the captain free to make discoveries like the wheel or gravity, then sell their findings to the executives or campaign staff of their choice, urged by a strong sense of benevolence, a tribute to charity as a force. And the first lieutenant's unmatched love of history is proven by the pictures taken of their parents with Goebbels in Brazil in the 70s. And the second lieutenant's jealousy shows and grouses to one, "That's not Goebbels, it's clear that it's Martin Bormann." The sergeant major that reset the standards of esprit de corps doesn't know the panic they'll feel a few short years later when they are urged out of the way, or that they'll become stiff with resentment and resolute in their calls for punishment and institute measures to monitor how the company behaves, while the staff sergeant writes on a photo of themselves, "The future belongs to you," and daydreams about collecting the remaining virginities from the sorority house down the road, and they already have the names, ages, and weights in a frequently updated database. Then the staff sergeant complains about commercials before content. The chief warrant officer who breaks ranks to research the order the alphabet was created in gets rueful about seeing themselves age and attending charity events, funerals, and hospital visits, seeing their face in the mirror more washed out than before, wondering as they write their commencement address, who will even be paying attention in the audience, drinking from puddles, seeing what the sky says, not being able to read handwriting as children. They receive a small puzzle in the mail. And to the private, it's all an eye roll, and all so boring and shallow to see another round of legacy shut out by an offhand remark. The private doesn't ask any of the officers where they should start. What's the matter where rebellion is kitsch and trauma is Walmart? The specialist greets the private. They each think that the other is a dilettante. And later, the specialist considers, what's the matter where you have 1,000 followers and not a dozen supporters? Would you sell the relics? Recently, the most recent thing I put out was not new. It was older material, though a quarter of it was previously unreleased material from the early 2010s. It was a collection of the past 20 years or so of work, and I dare say perhaps it's an excellent collection of material. It was called Something for Everyone, because indeed the whole idea was that it has something for everyone. Ah, clever, clever. So this, of course, is called Everyone. Too late in the evening, 7:45. That man around the corner lost his ring in a fight. Here comes St. Thomas walking through the door, found himself an auction, bought everything on the floor. I don't wake up too early, and I don't cut my face. I don't call any strangers, and I certainly don't go looking for their graves. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. Pork chops in the kitchen. Above the sink there's a light. No milk on the table for the blink of an eye. Up the road is a driveway where they come out paid. Yeah, they come out smiling, dead cats in their way. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. Oh my. Wow. It was going to be bad, but shit. Wow, this is going to be hard. God damn. All right. You know, challenge accepted. We'll have to move quickly. This is an old one. This one's coming up on 20 years. I think it was 19 years ago. It's from a book I did called Tracing the NIM Signal. All my stuff is out there, fluxlifeinc.com, cheap plug. You can go see the whole, you can read the whole story, baby. You can see the whole thing from day one, literally, This is Slow Boat to China. The razor skin fell on the seat. The roof had been gouged out by a key since regarded. A few numbers were written down, all typed out in a foreign language, all the product of inflation. The casino slot machines the casino slot machines paid out with surf music in a 20-minute ring. The plumber knocked on the last room of the far wing and was tipped with uneaten meat. I keep trying to leave, but I only get more inside. I made it out of the garage only to be stuck behind a foreigner with $1,000 hubcaps on a $50 car. A girl climbed up the mic, and before she got numb, asked them how they could stand the climate. She was from California, never was snowed on, didn't get stopped by trains. 20 miles to 5 miles, then 10 to 15, then down to 3, ranging from dour to catatonic to irate. You can't tell a building from a train. Everyone drives through, though, except for me, because I stopped the frame and I took the wrong exit driving into the marching band display and wrote my senator complaining to his face. He wrote back saying, "Yes, son, it's about time we did things your way." Everybody's acting like an altar boy looking for a lampshade to make straight, some Sunday spending money, a free robe, a thimble out of the river, because they got the chance to make their case. Trees grow faster in the city, according to the study. The nutrients depleted my body. No electricity is going to open that door. Ice is slow and not enough to keep my attention. My attention. Everybody acting like an altar boy, dragging their disagreements out into the streets, stopped, slow and coy, using their vestments for sheets. A few quick turns and pleas for a reward. The holding cell is empty, and I don't choose to open it today. I paid to replace the battery and cancel my disappointments. The dentist charged me a late fee, and my neighbor watched his lawn instead of the TV. While, across the street, I put my dinner in a glass and filled it with water, drank half and left the rest. I threw in some safety pins to see how fast they'd rust. After 6 months, there were still no results. This is a new one. This is going to be in not the next book, but the book after that, which hopefully is coming out in May. All the secrets are coming away now. This is you'll hear it here first, though. It's called Space Filter. He was one of these fuckers with a television face, long, thin, membrane fingers, 4-foot legs, and gray veins. You could see the color change when his skin was peeled. His accent was badly pixelated tornadoes flown in from old movie posters. They love like Miraculin spiking the water supply. She reads her monthly statements and hopes she'll get a surprise. She wins a hula hoop contest and sprinkles talcum powder in her eyes. Lies when interviewed in a sterile room by a queen without a kingdom, crown, and jewels. Festooned in a barren womb, carriage wheels on layaway. Her pussy is waxed on the 10th moon. She threatens to sue over any ingrown hair. She bites the heads off sparrows on morning runs, then heels over and gets a warning for flashing a school bus. They love like sprayed DDT into a restored chapel. She urinates, then masturbates with the corner of a biography about Ivan Boesky. Dr. Weather surveys the results and reports to the board. After careful observation and consideration, she finally found the holes in the thinking she'd been hiding. And that's when I knew she was pretending. She was pretending to understand. She was pretending to be a man. Dr. Fran makes a casting call. They talk in breathless circles about the saxophone player who cannot take the horn out of his mouth. They stand under paisley awnings in the spring rain. They go up and up and up and up and up and up. They pay attention to what the sky tells them. They have regression therapy from the bottom of the ocean. She says to Dr. Fran, "The ocean is the most wondrous, large, indefinite amount of all." The ocean makes Dr. Fran shiver. Does it make him shiver? Does he believe the water will withstand his rubber raincoat? She complains to Dr. Weather the water is dry beyond belief, to which Dr. Weather replies, "Down, down, down into the darkness of the water he slides gently, the wet wetting, the scorpion palms. Gently it goes. The numbers fall and rise. The checkerboard needs companionship. The wondrous pigment of the ocean ever-changing. She is destroyed. In a moment she immediately forgets. Dr. Weather regrets never answering his phone. Dr. Fran mourns the lonely little large lake. She comes on the faucet and asks, "Does the lake make you shiver? Does it?" He sees billboards that sicken him despite his noblest ideals. Dr. Weather comforts him that it's all right to get sickened. Why would you think nautical navigation is neutral when navigation is the wettest waterfall of all? Down, down, down into the tangled purple of the pigments. Gently it goes, tearless and quite possibly rainless. Love God, not worship money. This is... This is the one that you've loved for all these years. This is something for everyone. Spring Eternal. Yeah. Truth and beauty. Let's celebrate together. Let's make special every day. This is, yeah, all of those things. They arrive every year this time. They put swimsuits on, they tell jokes, and get the punchlines wrong. We set up the continental breakfast and watch the elevators come down. Before the wake up calls, we're cleaning the halls. The tables are heavy. We vacuum the lobby. The rest of the morning, we're washing silverware and folding towels. I have to work a double tonight. I'm tired, but I don't mind. At least I'll get some overtime, but by 9, it seems like this shift will go on forever because it feels like I'm living in a nonstop dream. The lights are always on. I can't sleep or run away because I'll get in trouble. Get in trouble. I can't believe they stiffed me on a tip. I carried their luggage to the street. This is real, so bite my lip and don't ever look back. Don't ever look back. I get so frustrated when they ask me to repeat things because of my accent and then say it's so cute the way you speak, and I have to listen to some woman complain about the thread count of the sheets. I don't want to work tonight, but I really don't have a choice. I have to make what I can now because I won't be young forever. Because it feels like I'm living in a non-stop dream. The lights are always on. I can't sleep or run away because I'll get in trouble. I can't believe they forgot to fill the pool with chlorine. Second time this week. Not my job, but they still complain to me. This is real, so bite my lip and smile politely as I can. Yes, I understand, ma'am. My heart really gets racing when their kids throw things. I can't wait to go home tonight, but it'll be okay, because it's either this or the spoon factory, and I can't wait to go home tonight. And now we come to our grand finale, right? Our grand finale. We hope that you enjoying Spring Eternal. We hope that you're enjoying fucking Truth and Beauty, feeling the force of expression, and you know, doing it, like, all over you, right? All that. This is all right. Check that out. Woo! There we are. Hello. Hello. Let's celebrate. Special every day. This is called Always All the Time. This is what it's really, 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 really all about. Everything else is a prelude. It's really about truth and beauty. Truth and beauty. Now then! The present is in the future. History is present. The present, future is present. Present is present, and history is history. And we see all three pushed together to the foreground wonderfully. All three, you and me. And there's a beautiful, wonderful woman named Diane once said, God bless her, I hope our future is like flying birds. The weather is in the sea, gravityless moment, and dotted with cherry trees and colored pencils. There is very little in life that matches what I feel when you smile at what I whisper back to you. We're in the room and out of nowhere looking at the inlet together in letters and circles. Like a slit in the curtain, like a fluttering bird ready to bathe, like an oxidized copper fountain. I want to be with you always, all the time. Like a white shirt with a fresh grass stain, like a streetlight breathing air. Like waving from the top of a ladder, you plan all the plans, always, all the time. Like a strawberry on the counter, like fingernails washed clean, like a bee being curious of a new flower. You are adorable, always, all the time. Like pickled ginger on salmon, like a workbench in the sun, like an invention imagined. We are here with each other, always, all the time. Like a cat cornering a grasshopper, like a lick stamp pressed with a thumb, like a rectangle with unbroken corners. You are mine, I am yours, always, all time. And that, my friends, has been Spring Eternal. We hope that you have enjoyed it. We will be back next week. So we hope that you've had a nice time. We're very, we liked it. We love doing this, and so hopefully the technological issues will be fixed. Though this worked out very well, but hopefully it'd be nice to be back to the regular setup. You know how these things are. All right, everybody. See you all next week. Love you. Bye.